Everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm in a different room today because I just finished recording a video for my Patreon and in my room, and it was way too hot. This room has a large door leading out to the balcony, which has been open for days, and it's just much cooler in here. It's kind of like the laundry room, and like the cleaning utensils are here. Yeah, camera's a little bit higher than I'm used to, but it's, just a change of scenery, really. So today we're going to be talking about episode 3 of Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries. I took some notes. This episode to me was the most creepy. And I think that's because it wasn't going where I thought it was going. I thought for a long time one thing, and then it turns out it was another thing, and it kind of threw me. I spent like a couple of days thinking about this story. Also, this video is not going to be fully quiet. I think someone is doing like some woodwork outside or something. I don't know if you can hear that. I can hear a machine going, but I can't close the door because if I sit in a completely closed room, I will die of heat. So, alright, let's get into it. So episode 3 was about a family. So I will briefly introduce who they are. There was the father. He was Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès, and he was a count. He was described as a family man, loved his kids, spent a lot of time with his kids, loved to laugh. He loved like a good meal, a glass of wine, and some great company that he could laugh with. He made friends very easily with people. He was from a very prominent family from the aristocracy from Versailles. So he came from money. His family was his father was a count. I think his ancestors were counts. He had like a reputation and a very well respected family. And him and his wife and kids lived in a very upscale neighborhood in Nantes, in France. Agnes, the mom, she worked at a Catholic school. Again, very involved with her children, and was a very well-liked person by everyone. Then there was Arthur, the oldest son. He was 20 years old. He was described as a handsome young man. He wasn't Xavier's biological son. So Xavier and Agnes met when they were very young. And at a certain point, he broke up with her because he didn't want to be tied down yet. He wanted a little bit of adventure in his life, and he went traveling for a while. He went traveling for a year. When he came back, he wanted to start up his relationship with Agnes again, but she was in the meantime pregnant from another man. But Xavier loved her and married her and adopted Arthur, who officially got his name. Now, one of Xavier's friends said that was very not done in Versailles, where he was from, like being from a very prominent family. Marrying a woman who was pregnant with someone else's child was like looked down on. So the fact that he did it was very, I don't know, I wouldn't say noble of him, but like it made a lot of people think that he was just that kind of man who just loved her and really didn't care what people thought. Then there was Thomas. He was 18. He was very shy, and he went to school to study music. He was very musically gifted. There was Anne. She was 16. She was a model for mail order catalogs, and she was the best student of all the children. And then there was Benoit. He was 13 years old, and he loved playing the drums. He made a lot of noise. He played the drums all day. So it all started on April 11th of 2011 when a neighbor noticed that the entire house had been locked up. All the shutters were closed, the doors were locked, and she said that was strange because even when they went on vacation, they would never close the shutters. They were, as long as the family lived there, they had always been open. And she hadn't seen anyone in days, so she contacted police to go check on them. Police went, looked at the house, found that all the beds had no sheets on them. A bunch of the closets were open. I don't know if clothes were missing or not, but it was very apparent that the family had packed up and left on their own. That was the conclusion police came to. Between April 9th and 14th, various letters were sent to family members and friends, where the family explains that Xavier was recruited by the DEA in the United States, the Drug Enforcement Agency. Does it stand for, like, the drug police, to go undercover in a drug organization to infiltrate a network, and that they left to do that. They wanted to inform their family that that's what they are doing, but they can't be contacted. What I find very strange about this piece of information is that a lot of people believed it could be true. Like, one of his friends said that would be a very Xavier thing to do, so I wouldn't be surprised. And a lot of other people said they thought it was weird, but they also thought maybe it was possible. It makes me question what kind of person Xavier was that people thought that was real. Like, if one of my friends sent me a letter, one of my family members sent me a letter and said this, no way in hell would I believe them. I just thought it was really weird. Agnes's family didn't believe it. Agnes was not the person to do that, and they didn't believe that she would uproot her children and take her to something like this. So they contacted police with the letter and asked them to investigate. So on April 15th, they went back to look at the house. They found, I don't know if they found this the first time, but it was mentioned on the second visit that all the family photos had been taken out of their frames, which was another indication that they left because they took their photos, like their most important photos, with them. And again, there was nothing suspicious at the house. On April 18th, 19th, and 20th, they again went to visit the house and found nothing suspicious. I find it a little weird that police went to the house so many times when they, at least initially, were convinced that the family left on their own. They did later give a press conference, I think the next day on the 21st, that they found it a suspicious disappearance and they were investigating it. But initially they thought they had left, so to go back to the house 5 times in a row, I thought was a little bit strange. On April 21st, 2011, they did their 6th visit. And this is when they found something. A police officer noticed a kind of strange patch of dirt. Something that looked like it had been moved under the deck, like under the terrace outside. And they dug it up and found the bodies of Agnes, the 4 children, and the 2 dogs. But Xavier was nowhere to be found. A lot of friends of Xavier's were like, no way did he do something to them. That's impossible. He was a very loving man to his children. He regularly hugged them, showed a lot of affection towards them. Another thing that they said is that he was from a prominent family. If he killed all his children, his name died with him, like the family line ceased to exist, which was in the aristocracy aristocracy, a very big scandal. And they also said that he had really bad back pain and that bending so low underneath the terrace would have been virtually impossible for him. A couple of interesting things. So, all the children had sleeping pills in their system. But all the children and Agnes were all killed with 2 bullets to the head. Agnes did not have sleeping pills. They also believe she was the first one to be killed. I don't know why she didn't have sleeping pills, but the children did. There was no blood found anywhere. Anywhere in the house. Not a trace of blood. Having watched a lot of crime shows, it is extremely difficult to clean up blood in such a way that police can't find it. Usually with a black light or with a certain type of material, they can find traces of blood. And they couldn't find any. So whoever did this was extremely skilled at it, like knew how to get away with this. They started digging a little bit into Xavier's life and found that in 2000, the whole family wanted to move to America, and they tried to move to Florida. But it didn't work. It was much harder than they thought. I can attest to that. It's very difficult. And they had to move back to France. And because of this failed American dream, they had spent all their money, or most of their money. Over the next decade, business was not going very well. I believe they don't go into detail on this, but I believe that Xavier owned a couple of businesses, and they all were not making money. So over the next decade, he pretty much lost all the money they had. 3 months before this happened, Xavier's father died. And while he was cleaning up his belongings, he found that his father also had no more money. His father also had pretty much gone bankrupt, which really affected him because I think in his mind he thought, yeah, we're not doing well financially, but I am the heir to a very prominent family. So if my father ever dies, we'll have money again. And that was not the case. What he did find when cleaning up his father's belongings was a rifle, a shotgun. Over the next couple of months, Xavier got his license, his firearm license. He went to a shooting range regularly to practice shooting. In February, I believe, February or March, he bought a silencer for the rifle, claiming that he wanted to take his kids out for hunting in the close to the city of Nantes, and he didn't want to alert people or scare people, so he wanted a silencer. At this point, what police think happened, an interesting fact, is that Agnes, the children, and the 2 dogs were found in the same grave. Thomas, the 18-year-old, was found in a separate grave. They deduced that the family was most likely killed in the night of April 4th, but Thomas wasn't killed until the evening of April 5th. Thomas was away at college, and his father called him to come home on April 5th, and they spent the evening watching TV, talking. They think that he might have had the hardest time killing Thomas because Thomas was his oldest son, since Arthur wasn't his biological son and would have been the only heir left to his name, and that maybe that's why he hesitated. I personally don't think so. I would think that he maybe waited. Well, first of all, Thomas wasn't home when he killed everyone else, so he had to wait for him to come home from college, but I think that he wanted to spend a few last hours with his son before he killed him. He adopted Arthur. He had his last name. Arthur wouldn't have carried his lineage by blood, but definitely would have carried the family name, so I don't think that was really an argument. Now this is where I found it creepy. So first of all, there was no thought in my mind that Xavier had done this. When everyone he knew testified that there was no way in hell he did this, I believed that. So when it became apparent that he had done this, I was really creeped out by it. But it gets even creepier to me. On April 22nd, 2011, they find Xavier's car at a motel in the south of France. They started retracing what he did. Now, since they found that Thomas, the last person to be killed, was killed on April 5th, neighbors saw Xavier walking outside on April 6th as if nothing was going on. He waved at them, said hi to people. It wasn't until a few days later that he took his car and left. Police were able to trace him because he very obviously was not trying to hide. He bought gas. He took money out of the ATM with his bank card and is shown on camera at the ATM. He paid in restaurants, in bars, in hotels with his bank card, which is perfectly traceable. He was not hiding from cameras anywhere. They traced him driving for a week down to the south of France, seemingly on a pilgrimage, like visiting places from his past, places that he went on vacation to as a child, places that he went on vacation to with Agnes, the first place he lived with her where some of his children were born. He seemed to be visiting places that he used to be happy. And then at the very end, where his car was found, he's seen on a security camera crossing the parking lot into a very wooded and mountainous area. From pictures, it looks huge. And he's seen carrying a very large duffel bag, which police believe held the rifle. So in police's mind, he was going on a last pilgrimage to eventually commit suicide, because in 98% of family murders, the killer commits suicide. However, there are a lot of people, including me, who believe that he escaped and is still living somewhere today, that he belongs to the 2% that did not kill himself. Police think that he killed his family to save them the disgrace of having no money left. I don't know, because then I think you would also kill yourself. He sounds to me like a very calculated killer. And here's why I don't think he committed suicide. He was way too meticulous in this. I think he firmly believed the bodies were not going to be found. If you're going away for a week on a pilgrimage to then commit suicide, I don't think you would really go through that much effort to hide the bodies. He, closing off the house, it was already 6 days until a neighbor alerted police. So he could have just left them in the house, but he cleaned up better than most criminals know how to do. He cleaned up that nobody found any evidence. And by the way, the family were all wrapped in blankets and plastic bags. No fingerprints or DNA was found on any of the blankets. So he cleaned up so well that no traces were found of anything. He buried them under the terrace pretty well. I'm actually kind of surprised that they were found. It took a long time for them to find them. letters to everyone, telling people they had left to start a life somewhere else, in the hopes that people would believe that and wouldn't go looking for them. I think that the reason he wasn't trying to hide is not because he was going to kill himself anyway, it's because he believed that nobody would find the bodies and that he would get away with it. And you know what? He did. Yes, they found them. Yes, people know he did it. But he has not been found since it's 2011. Like, it is now 9 years. And he has not been found. A lot of people, a lot of his friends believe that he fled to Latin America, that he might have driven to either Germany or even all the way down to Morocco and taken a freight boat to Latin America. He was very fluent in English. He spoke Spanish really well, and he had very dark hair, dark eyes. He could fit in. Police have also said, or I don't know if police said it, but it's been said that since he looks like pretty much everyone else, he has no distinguishing features, it'll be very hard for people to recognize him because he will no longer, like, he doesn't stand out from a crowd. He was in his 50s when this happened. He'll be in his 60s now. I think you change quite a bit between that age, so I don't know if people will ever recognize him, but I firmly believe that he was at least alive when he left France and that he got away with it. I am just completely confused as to why he did this. I am sure that losing all his money had something to do with it. But why not kill yourself? Why kill your whole family and then you go start a life somewhere else? It is vicious. These kind of cases scare me more than anything because it once again shows that you never know a person. Nobody he knew ever thought he could do this. They believed firmly that he had not done this until all the evidence came out. And, I mean, for 20 years, he was happily married with 4 kids, a very affectionate father, and he killed all of them, showed no remorse whatsoever, and left. Started a life somewhere else. At least that's what I believe. His body was never found in the mountains, which I know can be very hard to do. But the fact that he tried so hard to make sure that nobody found them makes me believe that he was not trying to kill himself. He was trying to get away with it. And oh gosh, I don't know, this case shocks me so much. I felt so eerie after watching this episode because it was just a twist I didn't see coming. And when I saw pictures of him in the beginning of the episode and when they talked about him, I thought he looked like such a friendly, loving man. And at the end of it, I was like, what a horrible person. And I don't know. I find it horrific what happened. It does make me question, because one of his friends raised the argument he didn't know how to kill someone and then clean it up without a trace. Like, I can't imagine that in a couple of months' time he became like the perfect mastermind, like a criminal mastermind. And that was one of the things that I thought, well, it couldn't have been him because he did it so well. Like, he would have had to have, like, whoever did this would have had to have a background in it. But he didn't. And he had zero interest in guns until he found his father's rifle. So it wasn't even like he was a skilled gunman or he had been dabbing in violence for a while. He had begun shooting 3 months before. And I wonder whether it was finding that gun that triggered that in him, because I think it's pretty apparent that he had been planning this for 3 months, taking the shooting lessons, buying the silencer. I don't think this was, and the fact that he, like, cleaned it up so meticulously, I don't think this was he woke up one morning and decided to do this. I think he planned this for months. And I don't know. I hate the feeling that I get from this case. I find it really, really shocking. So, let me know your thoughts. If you watched this episode, let me know how you felt about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.